After years of tolerating my brother's manipulative girlfriend, I finally told her I hated her. Now my family thinks I'm the problem. Was I too harsh? Me and my brother have never had a great relationship in the past, but we still cared for each other in our own ways. He met his girlfriend, Emily, somewhere before COVID, and from the very beginning, things were rocky. When she first met our mother, she came over unannounced and practically embarrassed my brother. In our household, we usually have to ask if friends or partners could sleep over, and even though our parents would often say no, Emily would insist she'd leave soon, only to claim it was too late and end up staying the night. When COVID hit, she was essentially forced to live with us. Since I'm naturally more introverted and barely talked to my brother, I didn't get along with her. Throughout the lockdown, it was like she had no sense of personal responsibility. She would constantly make messes and expect me to clean up after her. On several occasions, I found her dirty laundry, including her undergarments, lying on the laundry room floor. It felt degrading, like she assumed I was her maid. Dinner times were no better. Emily would serve herself massive portions without any consideration for others. My brother would often ask if they were sharing, but she'd rudely respond that it was all for her. More often than not, she would waste the food, which was particularly upsetting since our family was struggling financially during the pandemic. After the pandemic, they moved out, which put a strain on my relationship with my brother. But it wasn't just me she distanced from him. Over time, Emily caused multiple friendships to crumble. Many of his friends cut ties with him because of the unnecessary drama she stirred. Even our cousins, who had always been close to my brother, started pulling away. Despite not holding a stable job, she would use my brother's hard-earned money for expensive clothes and luxuries. It was frustrating to see how much he sacrificed for her while she did nothing in return. Communication with my brother became difficult. Whenever I'd try to call or plan something with him, Emily would intercept the call, speaking on his behalf. It was like she controlled every aspect of his life. If something didn't go her way, her displeasure was written all over her face. She never attempted to hide it. Her two-faced nature was apparent to everyone, sweet and polite when she wanted something, but cold and dismissive when she didn't. One thing that particularly upset me was her behavior around others. Even though she was in a committed relationship, she often wore revealing clothing, even around children. It felt inappropriate and unnecessary, yet no one else seemed to see the issue. Over the past couple of years, I've tried to endure her presence for the sake of my brother, but lately, she's been pushing every boundary. She treats my brother like her personal chauffeur, making him drive her around even when he's exhausted from work. She frequently comes over for dinner without any regard for whether there's enough food for everyone. While my brother works tirelessly, she lounges around like she's entitled to everything. I began making my dislike for her more obvious, which caused tension. Despite my family previously admitting they weren't fond of Emily, they've recently started defending her. I don't understand the sudden change, and it honestly frustrates me. I try not to let it get to me, mostly keeping to myself, but it's hard when it feels like my concerns are dismissed. I've attempted to stay in contact with my brother, but Emily makes it incredibly difficult. It's heartbreaking to see how isolated he's become. When I finally voiced my true feelings and told Emily that I hated her, the backlash from my family was immediate. They accused me of going too far and overreacting. I only wanted to protect my brother and express my frustrations. Was I too harsh? Should I have handled it differently? Or was it justified to finally stand up for how I've been feeling all these years? Am I the one at fault for admitting I hate my brother's girlfriend? Story 2. My sister constantly criticizes my remote job. I finally snapped and told her to get one. Now she's crying, avoiding me, and our parents want me to apologize. I, 22, female, made my sister, 24, female, cry yesterday. And now I'm left wondering if I handled things poorly. I mostly work from home in my room with social services, supporting vulnerable people. My job is generally quite monotonous, but there are a lot of emotionally taxing cases I work with. It's not easy, and we are incredibly short-staffed, which makes the workload even more overwhelming. While there are moments of waiting for other teams to complete their work before we can proceed, the emotional burden of the job often leaves me drained. Outside of work, I've been trying to maintain some semblance of a balanced life. I'm actively applying for other jobs because the current one has started taking a toll on my mental health. I also try to keep up with hobbies, exercise regularly, and see my friends when I can. With so much on my plate, any spare moment of peace I get feels invaluable. Yesterday, I went to grab a coffee from the kitchen during one of those moments. My sister was there, sitting at the table, and almost immediately she started making comments about how I do nothing all day. It's not the first time she's made remarks like this. She often mocks my job, saying that it must be so easy to work from home. She prodded me for a reaction, smirking and making sarcastic remarks. I tried to stay calm, but after a few minutes, her words started to get under my skin. I finally replied, "When you get a job, you can comment." I didn't mean to sound harsh, but the frustration of constantly being belittled boiled over. Her face immediately changed. She began shouting, bringing up how she's had physically demanding jobs in the past and how she has a master's degree. I know she's struggled to find a stable job since finishing her studies, and the job market hasn't been kind to her. But that wasn't the point I was making. I simply wanted her to understand how dismissive her comments were. Within moments, she started crying. I reiterated that this wasn't a competition. Her past experiences don't negate the difficulties I face in my own work. I told her that when she gets a job, she'll understand how exhausting it can be, whether it's physically or emotionally demanding. Since then, she's been avoiding me like I have some kind of infectious disease. Every time I walk into a room, she immediately leaves. It's like she's punishing me for standing up for myself. My parents are now involved, and they're telling me I need to accept that this is just how she is. They think I should apologize to keep the peace, but I'm struggling to see why I should when she was the one who pushed me in the first place. The thing is, this isn't a one-time incident. My sister has always had a critical nature when it comes to me. She comments on everything: the food I eat, how much I exercise, my career choices, my hobbies, and even the way I laugh. She claims I have no real friends, despite the fact that I do my best to maintain meaningful relationships. It feels like I can't catch a break. I've tried to be understanding. I know she's frustrated with her own situation, and maybe even feels insecure. Watching someone else work and move forward in life while she's stuck in a rut can't be easy. But does that really justify tearing me down? I'm tired of constantly being the target of her resentment. I've worked hard to build a life I'm proud of, even if it's not perfect. My job may not be physically demanding, but the emotional strain is undeniable. Supporting vulnerable people, listening to heartbreaking stories, and trying to find solutions isn't easy. The fact that my sister refuses to acknowledge the emotional labor of my work is incredibly hurtful. I want to mend things with her, but I'm also exhausted. Part of me feels like I've done nothing wrong, while another part wonders if I should have handled the situation differently. Maybe I should have calmly explained why her comments were hurtful instead of snapping. Maybe I should have shown more patience, knowing how she's been struggling. But how much am I supposed to tolerate before I'm allowed to stand up for myself? At the end of the day, I'm not sure where to go from here. Should I be the bigger person and apologize, even if I don't believe I was entirely in the wrong? Or should I stick to my guns and hold her accountable for the way she treats me? Story 3. My friends planned a beach trip, but now I'm paying more because one couple insists on a private bathroom. Am I wrong for wanting to back out? I, 20, male, am a college student working part-time, trying to juggle school, work, and a social life. Like most students, I don't have a lot of disposable income. My friends and I had been discussing taking a beach trip this summer to relax and unwind after a stressful school year. It seemed like a great plan at first, a group getaway filled with sun, sand, and laughter. Unfortunately, things took a turn when the logistics started getting complicated. The idea was simple: find a vacation rental that could accommodate our group, keeping costs as low as possible. Since we were all on a budget, we initially agreed that the more people we had, the cheaper it would be for each person. One of our friends, a couple, let's call them John and Emily, had a specific demand. They wanted a private bathroom. While I understood their preference, their insistence added extra constraints to our search. We had been discussing this trip for weeks, and the group chat was filled with rental suggestions, budget considerations, and planning details. We even scheduled a Zoom call to finalize our choice. However, when the time came, John and Emily didn't show up. The rest of us took the opportunity to review the options, narrow down our choices, and pick a house that seemed to satisfy most of our needs. The house could accommodate up to 11 people, giving us the best price per person. Since Emily was the only one over 21, she was the only one who could book the rental. After presenting our decision to them, instead of supporting the choice, they voiced strong objections. They decided they didn't want the maximum number of people in the house, which pushed the cost per person significantly higher. This created a wave of frustration within the group. Some of our friends, realizing how much more expensive the trip was becoming, backed out. At this point, we were left with 8 people instead of the original 11, raising the cost per person to approximately $500 for the entire trip. I suggested inviting my girlfriend's sister to join us to bring the numbers back up. My thought process was that more people would bring down the individual costs and ease the financial strain on everyone. However, John and Emily flat out refused the idea. They gave no clear justification, only asserting that they were uncomfortable with adding anyone else. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It felt unfair that they could demand fewer people, resulting in a higher cost for the rest of us, especially when they already had the luxury of their own bathroom. My girlfriend's brother, who had been considering going, also decided to drop out in solidarity. It was becoming clear that the trip wasn't shaping up to be the fun and budget-friendly vacation we had all initially envisioned. To make matters worse, when I suggested we could still find a different house that might accommodate fewer people at a lower price, John argued against it. His reason? Venmo fees. He claimed that refunding money and sending it again would incur transaction fees that would ultimately cost us more. While I understand that fees are a nuisance, they're typically minimal compared to the potential savings we'd gain by reorganizing our trip. It felt like a weak excuse to shut down any compromise. At this point, I was left feeling incredibly frustrated. I didn't understand why John and Emily's preferences outweighed the financial comfort of the rest of the group. My girlfriend and I began seriously considering backing out entirely and planning our own trip. It wasn't just the cost that bothered me, it was the principle. Why should we be guilt-tripped into spending more money than necessary when there were fair and logical alternatives available? Now, the rest of the group is making me feel like I'm being unreasonable. They're telling me that I'm overreacting and making things difficult. Some have even implied that I'm being selfish for not wanting to go along with the current plan. But I can't shake the feeling that I'm being forced into a financial decision that doesn't make sense. From my perspective, this could have been handled so much better. If John and Emily had been transparent about their preferences from the start, we could have adjusted the plan accordingly. Or, if they were willing to compromise, we could have explored other options. But their unwillingness to budge and the expectation that the rest of us would simply go along with it feels unfair. I also feel disappointed because I was genuinely excited about this trip. I've been working hard, saving up, and looking forward to spending time with my friends. But now, it feels like the trip has become more of a financial burden than a fun escape. My girlfriend has been supportive of my decision to possibly cancel, even though she was initially looking forward to the trip as well. She agrees that it's unreasonable to pay so much more when it could be avoided. We're now considering planning our own little getaway instead, one where we can enjoy ourselves without unnecessary drama and financial stress. So, what do you think? Am I being unreasonable for not wanting to go through with the beach trip under these circumstances? Would I be the jerk if I backed out now, even though plans have already been made? Or am I justified in standing my ground when the situation feels unfair?